Equal Employment Practices Commission is an independent, non-mayoral oversight entity tasked with auditing, reviewing, and monitoring the equal employment practices of the City of New York. Its fiscal 2024 executive budget totals $1.27 million, including $1.18 million for personnel services and $87,000 for other than personal services. I would like to welcome the leadership of both commissions. The City, CCHR, EEPC, and the committee are all in a unique position to proactively support New Yorkers as we continue to move forward. I would like to continue to have these fruitful conversations with ongoing oversight hearings. However, we have a lot of work ahead. Today, I am interested in learning about CCHR's source of income unit, its staffing, and the inner workings of the Law Enforcement Bureau. For EEPC, I look forward to discussing the Commission's staffing and the various reports the agency releases. This plan included one new needs for CCHR, but decreased both entity budgets by $1.2 million for CCHR and $73,000 for EEPC. We're really talking about drop in a bucket, for real, with these various pegs in both. I remain concerned that these budgets are not sufficiently funded and would like to further discuss that in today's hearing. While all government agencies perform good work, EEPC and CCHR are particularly critical in ensuring that our workplace has equal employment opportunities, diversity, inclusion, and most importantly, that in this city, our civil and human rights are being upheld. I'm working on a package of bills around equity and proper funding and staffing for these agencies, and this is critical to the work that we do to ensure that it is effective. The committee would also like to discuss this and other budgetary changes in the Adams administration's budget. I look forward to learning more about the Commission on Human Rights and the Equal Employment Practices Commission, the important role that each has in New York. I also want to thank our committee staff for their hard work, Financial Analyst Tim Veer, Unit Head Jack Story, Senior Counsel Jay Suri, and our Legislative Policy Analyst WM, and my Budget and Legislative Coordinator Nader. I'd like to welcome and thank again the Commission on Human Rights for the work that they do, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Before we get started, also my thanks to Tanvir and from the Council Finance Division for preparing all the hearings today. My committee counsel, Mike Toomey, and my senior advisor, John Yedden, all the financial analysts and support staff behind the scenes who make these executive budget hearings work. I'm now going to turn it over to my committee counsel, Mike Toomey, to swear in the witnesses for their testimony today. We've also been joined by Francisco Moya on Zoom.
Good morning. If you raise your right hands, please. Do you affirm that your testimony will be truthful to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief, and you will honestly and faithfully answer council member questions? Commissioner Palma? Deputy Commissioner Raj? Deputy Commissioner Chowdhury? Deputy Commissioner Salazar? Thank you. You may begin.
Adam, I think your mic's not on.
Sorry, I forgot that part. Good morning, Chair Williams, Chair Brannon, and members of the Committee on Finance and Civil Human Rights. Thank you for convening today's hearing. I'm Annabelle Palma, Commissioner and Chair of the New York City Commission on Human Rights. Today I'm joined by Stabna Raj, Deputy Commissioner of Law Enforcement Bureau, Kaji Chaudhry, Deputy Commissioner of the Community Relations Bureau, and Mariela Salazar, Deputy Commissioner for Administrative Services. I've had the honor to lead this agency since October of 2021. I'm proud of what our team has accomplished, and I will speak about some highlights of our work today. I will focus on enforcement, education, outreach, and legislative changes. The Commission is the agency charged with implementing the New York City Human Rights Law. Our law is one of the broadest and most protective anti-discrimination and anti-harassment laws in the country, with 27 protected categories. The law prohibits discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodations. By statute, the Commission has a dual mandate. First, the Commission's Law Enforcement Bureau enforces the law. This includes investigating complaints of discrimination from the public, initiating Commission investigations on behalf of the city, and conducting tests to identify potential violations of the law. Second, the Community Relations Bureau offers workshops and trainings on New Yorkers' rights and responsibilities under the law. We engage with businesses, employers, and housing providers across all 5 boroughs. The Community Relations Bureau seeks to prevent discrimination through education and works closely with community partners and sibling agencies to mitigate bias and discrimination. Our law has been amended twice over the past year. The most recent amendment, the definition of domestic violence to include economic abuse. This amendment will go into effect in July. In November of 2022, new transparency provisions that require employers to display the pay in job advertisements went into effect. These 2 changes build up the dozen amendments to our law that the Council enacted since 2012 through 2021. The law aims to advance equity in employment, in housing, and in public accommodations. In the workplace, the law includes protections for pregnant and lactating New Yorkers, prohibitions on discrimination based on applicant or current employee's arrest or conviction history, as well as protections for individuals with disabilities. The law forbids discrimination in housing based on race, disability, age, sexual orientation, source of income, and other protected categories. The law also prohibits retaliation against individuals who confront discrimination, report discrimination, or participate in a related investigation. The work we do every day aims to prevent discrimination and bias. We know that it still occurs, and when discrimination does occur, our agency aims to remedy the harms. In FY22, the Commission resolved 667 cases and assessed nearly $7 million in damages and penalties for violations of the law. Additionally, the Commission has shaped remedies that repair the harm experienced by individuals and communities impacted by discrimination. For example, in instances of employment discrimination, the Commission has negotiated resolutions that require respondents to change policies and practices that broaden employment opportunities, including for individuals who face discrimination because they are sexually harassed, live with a disability, or have been justice involved. In housing cases, settlements have included set-asides of apartments for voucher holders, as well as construction of ramps and modifications to apartments so residents with disabilities can access housing. Overall, the Commission seeks to foster compliance with the law. The Commission continues to use our enforcement tools to educate covered employers, housing providers, and providers of public accommodations about their legal obligations. We work with covered entities to develop policies and practices that prevent discrimination. We expanded our trainings, increased outreach to sibling agencies, and have grown our multilingual trainings. These efforts are supplemented by our extensive offerings on protections in the law, and the trainings and workshops focus on the specific groups of New Yorkers. Trainings are one of the example of the wide-ranging outreach carried out by our community liaisons and lead advisors who work specifically with the LGBTQIA individuals, New Yorkers of the African diaspora, Asian New Yorkers, and transgender individuals, among other New Yorkers historically underserved and underrepresented. The attorneys in the Law Enforcement Bureau evaluate and investigate allegations of discrimination brought to the Commission by members of the public. LEB also utilizes the agency's investigatory and prosecutorial powers to root out discrimination through Commission-initiated investigations. LEB offers the option of resolving claims in lieu of filing a complaint, leading to a quicker resolution in certain matters. At the same time, LEB continues to prioritize timely case resolutions. In FY22, the Commission fielded over 11,000 inquiries from members of the public in the form of phone calls, emails, letters, visits to Commission offices, or at Commission events. More than 780 of these inquiries were in languages other than English. Spanish, Mandarin, and Russian are the most common in this category. In the first half of FY23, LEB received over 5,000 inquiries. These numbers reflect the Commission's focus on enhancing agency visibility and amplifying knowledge of the broad protections afforded by our law. We continue to use all of our tools to inform New Yorkers that they have a right to live free from discrimination and harassment. In FY22, the largest number of inquiries we received were in employment, accounting for over 2,000 inquiries. Housing is second with over 750 inquiries. Across all jurisdictions, housing, employment, and public accommodations, disability-related inquiries were the most reported, followed by inquiries related to gender and then race and color. We received over 600 inquiries related to disability and over 550 inquiries related to gender. Race and color were raised in nearly 400 inquiries. The Commission continues to prioritize the use of pre-complaint interventions, which can provide more timely relief from harm in FY22. LEB resolved nearly 200 matters without filing a complaint. The most common pre-complaint interventions involve disability accommodations and housing, totaling 65 interventions, and 41 interventions involving lawful source of income discrimination, where a tenant or a prospective tenant was denied an apartment or the renewal of a lease based on the use of a voucher. The Commission's authority to initiate its own investigations without a member of the public filing a complaint remains a significant tool in our enforcement. When the Commission identifies the potential that widespread violations or discriminatory practices are taking place, the Commission can initiate an investigation. In FY22, CCHR launched 38 Commission-initiated actions and filed 11 Commission-initiated complaints. The Commission also uses testing to determine whether there is discrimination in housing, employment, or public accommodations. Agency staff may conduct testing in person or on the telephone or online as part of an investigation to see if they're treated differently or are given different information because they belong to a protected class. In FY22, the Commission tested over 700 entities. An entity may be tested for violations in multiple jurisdictions and or multiple protected classes. The Law Enforcement Bureau filed over 300 public-initiated complaints of discrimination in FY22. A little over 70% of those cases were in employment, 20% were in housing, and 6% were in public accommodations. Similar to inquiries, disability-related claims are the most prevalent, followed by gender and race. When violations of the law are identified and a complaint is filed, LEB works to fashion remedies and relief that address the harms caused to New Yorkers. In FY22, the Commission recovered $7 million in damages and civil penalties. Of that, over $6 million were awarded in compensatory damages to complainants and over $8 million in civil penalties to the general fund of the City of New York. I'm sorry, over $800,000 in civil penalties to the general fund of the City of New York. The Law Enforcement Bureau also seeks resolutions that deter future harm and effectively change the dynamics that allow harm to occur. Settlements are key to innovative resolutions that lead to change. In FY22, 31% of the cases were resolved through settlements. Ongoing work to end source of income discrimination against New Yorkers illustrates novel remedies in housing, such as the use of set-asides and broker incentive programs. The notable source of income conciliation from FY22 resulted in an agreement in which the housing provider set aside 20 units for voucher holders from across their properties. Since 2020, when the agency first began securing set-asides, the Law Enforcement Bureau has secured approximately 150 units for voucher holders. Recent settlements also include broker incentive programs where brokers offer monetary bonuses to placing voucher holders. This policy benefits brokers who work with and place the highest number of tenants who receive financial assistance to pay their rent. The Commission's Office of Mediation and Conflict Resolution offered parties a voluntary mediation program at no cost. It is confidential and available at any stage of a case. Staffed by a mediation director, the independent unit mediated 45 cases to resolution in FY22. Mediated cases accounted for damages totaling over $2 million, as well as non-economic relief. The Commission's Community Relations Bureau cultivates understanding and respect among cities' diverse communities. builds partnerships, and informs New Yorkers about the protections under the law. In FY22, we reached a record number of New Yorkers through conferences, workshops, and training sessions. CRB forges relationships that are essential to the work that we do to ensure recognition, dignity, and respect for all New Yorkers. CRB works diligently to foster inclusion and understanding. The agency's 5 community service centers, our lead advisors, and community liaisons are at the center of these efforts. In FY22, the Commission launched Understanding Jewish Experiences and Anti-Semitism, which brings a human rights lens to addressing the anti-Semitism and its harmful impacts on our society. In FY22, education and outreach efforts emphasized new amendments to our law. Sustained outreach focused on the expansion of workplace anti-discrimination protection to domestic workers, regardless of employer size. The agency worked to raise awareness about the law among employers and employees through in-person outreach, such as Days of Visibility in each of the 5 boroughs and business corridors outreach. CCHR also engaged with small business owners in all 5 boroughs. Staff provided accessible tools and guidance on how to comply with new pay transparency protections, as well as the longstanding employment protections in our law.
Commissioner, sorry, they told me that we have a limited time.
Sure.
Is it okay if you just skip to your conclusion?
Sure.
Because we have lots of questions.
No worries. I was almost through. But
Okay, thank you so much.
I will wrap it up.
Thank you.
In closing, I want to thank you for the opportunity to discuss the work of the New York City Commission on Human Rights here today with you. I'm proud to have this chance to speak to you on behalf of an agency that strives to ensure that no one who lives, works, or visits New York City experiences bias or discrimination because of their race, color, age, religion, creed, national origin, disability, gender identity, and expression, sexual orientation, or any other protected class. I look forward to continuing to champion the human rights of New Yorkers with the leadership of the Adams administration and the support of the New York City Council. Thank you so much, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you. Something I picked up in your testimony.
Yes.
It says the commission has a head count of 122 with 107 active staff. Does that mean there's 15 vacancies?
We currently have 15 vacant. Thank you, Council Member. You're
Yeah.
correct. We currently have 15 vacancies. We are continuing to work to fill those vacancies. We actually have 2 new staff members joining us in the next few weeks.
Got it. Okay. As nearly 40,000 asylees have come through the city in the past year, the city has spent at least $1 billion to support them and plans to spend $4 billion in total. These individuals who have the same basic right to emergency services as any New Yorker. Does CCHR have a responsibility to service the asylees?
CCHR has a responsibility to cover anyone who calls New York City home, and so anyone, regardless of their immigration status, will be covered under our law. We would not know if an asylum seeker comes to our agency because we do not ask for immigration status. We are mandated to ensure that they're covered under the New York City Human Rights Law. So,
does CCHR receive any funds related to the asylee effort?
By CCHR mandating, by us enforcing our law, we provide services to New Yorkers, but our budget is not tied to our mandate. So our budget is not tied to providing any service to anyone that comes into our agency. But Commissioner Roger, if you want to elaborate more on that.
Sorry. As the Commissioner said, we are mandated to serve anyone who either lives, works, or visits New York City. We do not ask what the person's immigration status is. And so everyone's served. If they have faced discrimination, then the Commission will assist them. We don't get specific funds to assist a specific group of people, whether they're asylum seekers or anyone else.
So does CCHR coordinate with any of the other agencies that are involved in the asylee effort?
Through our Community Relations Bureau, we have partnerships with sibling agencies, and we do coordinate. If there's events going on, we go and do tables, days of visibility. So yes, we do collaborate with our sibling agencies.
Okay. The bias response team. What is the budget for the bias response team, and how has it evolved over the past couple of years?
Our Community Relations Bureau handles cases and instances of any biases or discrimination happening within our agency. We don't have a separate budget for a bias response team. It all lives under our Community Relations Bureau unit. Commissioner Chaudhry, if you want to elaborate more on how that unit, the work that is done on the CRB.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Council Member, for the question. So as Commissioner mentioned, all our Community Relations Bureau staff work towards prevention of bias, hate, and discrimination. And the budget for the Community Relations Bureau is, the PS budget for Community Relations Bureau is $2.5 million. Our outreach and education is also, while CRB is bears the half of the mandate of outreach and education, it is also done in partnership with budget from our communications and other teams as well. And in our prevention work, we ensure that we are doing different aspects of it. So there is bystander intervention trainings. There are trainings to foster understanding of different communities. There are talking circles. There are days of visibility when an incident has happened. Yep. So that is like the broad aspect of like the different parts of our the work that community relations.
So what are the primary expenses?
Because of our mandate in the law, the budget for CRB focuses on PS, and then we have other than personal funds to do trainings and outreach and days of visibility and work with our comms team to ensure that we are continuing to promote the work that CCHR does. So the bulk of the money, the bulk of the budget goes to the PS side to ensure that we have the team to go out into the community.
Are there other grants or external funding sources?
We whenever possible, we aim to try to do partnerships, but CCHR's budget is basically the budget that we get from the City of New York, from OMB.
So the bias and hate prevention and intervention team that respond to bias-based incidents, in the mayor's management report in FY22, there were 104 responses to bias or hate prevention intervention, which is compared to 383 during the same period at FY21. So could you point to why, or explain why there's been a decrease in responses for the team in FY22?
Sure. So as we had discussed last year as well, in beginning of FY22, we revamped our approach to bias and hate prevention. Initially, all were responses to incidents. We moved away from there, looking at the more holistic approach to prevention rather than just responses to incidents. We're still responding, but our focus now is building on prevention, solidarity, and community building through our tools of engagement like multilingual bystander intervention trainings, talking circles, more community conversations. We are part of the mayoral initiative around breaking breads, building bonds, so that, again, the focus is prevention and less on just responses to incidents.
Okay. Let's talk about the Law Enforcement Bureau. Law Enforcement Bureau enforces the New York City Human Rights Law. What was the total amount and dollar value of the settlements made in FY22 and whatever you can tell me currently in FY23?
Sure, I'll let Commissioner Raj let you, under her leadership, has been able to make those settlements, so I'll let her elaborate on those.
Sorry. As the commissioner noted, we had about 7 million in settlements, damages to complainants who came forward and the cases were settled with us. We also had about 800,000 in civil penalties that are paid to the city and not to the commission itself.
Do those settlements generate revenue for CCHR?
No, the settlements are, the damages are paid to the individual claimants who come forward, and the civil penalties are paid to the City of New York, not to the commission itself.
And what are the most common types of complaints that the LEB enforces?
Most of our complaints are in employment. It's usually reasonable accommodations, discrimination on the basis of gender, so sexual harassment, gender identity, race, and then in housing, you have source of income, reasonable accommodations again, and in public accommodations, it runs a gamut of a lot of different things, whether it's race or religion or disability.
So if an individual files a claim with the LEB and the LEB attorney investigating their case doesn't represent them, but instead is a neutral investigator, why doesn't the commission provide legal support in that situation?
So I think it's imperative under our law that we maintain neutrality, because we are an investigative body that's supposed to represent all New Yorkers. So when someone comes to us with a complaint, we are mandated to ensure that there's no violation of the New York City human rights law. We don't assume that there has been a violation. We do the investigation. If we find there's no violation, then the case gets dismissed. If there is a violation, then we will work with the respondent and look at what the size of the respondent is, what the sophistication of the respondent is, what their financial resources are in order to come up with a solution. And then, if the case doesn't get settled and there is a violation, it goes on to litigation and then a trial at oath. So I think it's really important for us to be neutral to determine whether there is a violation. We're not representing just the complainant. We're representing, everyone. And also, we also do commission-initiated work where the commission itself determines that there may be a pattern and practice of discrimination, and the commission can either file a complaint, send a request for information, send a cease and desist letter, and say, you need to stop doing violating the law, but you also need to, these are the ways you need to respond to us, and then correct the violation.
How much of the work that you do is proactive versus reactive?
I don't have the exact numbers, but we don't always, so when someone comes to us with a complaint, sometimes the commission will join that complaint. So it's not just that the commission does commission-initiated work isolated without a complainant coming forward. We also join sometimes when we think there's a pattern and practice that we need to correct. And through our settlements, we make sure that there is a change in pattern in the policies and practices. Policies can be great. How it is actually practiced on the ground sometimes is a problem. So we want to make sure that's corrected. We make sure that there's training. And we, as the commissioner said, in housing cases, we have done set-asides and broker incentives that the parties have to agree to. In employment cases, we've actually asked employers in Fair Chance Act cases to work with reentry organizations so that we make sure that more people are able to come into the workforce. We have also had settlements where we had the respondent agree to not having the arbitration clause enforced. So there are different innovative ways in which we try to make sure that there is no violation as going forward. It's not just that one individual's issues that are resolved.
Councilmember, in terms of LEB, proactive work will fall under testing that the LEB department would do. So we have testers on our staff who we proactively will send out
Yeah, that's what I was-
to employment, housing, or public spaces to initiate or look for instances of discrimination.
Okay. And last question for me. I'm going to turn it over to my co-chair. And an issue that's important to both me and my co-chair was the salary transparency law that we passed, which, you know, was a big step towards pay equity for all New Yorkers. Can you talk to us about how many claims your agency has seen regarding pay transparency since the law was enacted?
So we have received quite a few tips from more than 300 plus tips from the public about pay transparency. We haven't to date received many complaints that people have filed with us, but we've also done quite a bit of testing in the area.
So I think I know the answer, but sort of rhetorical. Explain the difference between a tip and a complaint.
So a tip is somebody who comes forward and just wants to give us the information. Sometimes they want to come forward and give us their name, but don't want to file a complaint.
So it doesn't necessarily mean it's happening to them, but they notice something, or...
It may be happening to them, but they may not want to come forward for many reasons.
Sure.
Because they may be afraid of retaliation, although retaliation is a provision in our law that's a violation. But people are concerned sometimes about coming forward. So there are different reasons people want to leave us just a tip. And so then the commission decides whether we are going to take action or not, depending on the information that we have. And we also, like I said, do testing in the area. So we have moved forward with that too.
But I also just want to highlight, Councilmember, that for pay transparency, when the amendments were done, there's a cure period. So that's the period where if we receive a tip or a complaint, we're actually reaching out to the employers, just letting them know you have X amount of time to cure the violation. If not, then we will continue to do investigation.
And does the agency feel that this law is enforceable?
The law is certainly enforceable. That's why we've been doing testing, and we have, proceeded with investigations.
Okay. Okay, we've been joined, let's just do a check-in here. We've been joined by council members Velasquez, Osei, Ayala, Stevens, Joseph, Carr, Hanks, Barron, and Sanchez. Last question on the pay transparency, and then I want to turn it over to my co-chair. What training or resources has CCHR given its employees to help them understand the legislation?
Whenever our law is amended, we do internal in-house trainings to then ensure that our staff is prepared to go out into the community and educate the public on those amendments of our law. So we do in-house training.
Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Councilmember Natasha Williams. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm going to start with just some broad questions about your strategic plan. So, Commissioner Palma, you've been at the agency for some time now, and we are interested in understanding some of your goals as CCHR as chair and commissioner. So, can you share with us what your goals are and how the council can support your goals?
Thank you, Councilmember William. You know, since coming on the goals and overarching vision for the agency has been to build a New York City where people can live, work, thrive, right, free from discrimination. And during the time that I have been here, the agency, we have focused on creating an agency that's accessible, visible, and user-friendly to New Yorkers. Early on, I realized that we need to focus on preventive work and being more proactive, going out into the communities. And so that we have been building out our community centers in each of the 5 boroughs. We are now, we started in Queens. We're doing intake at those centers, so then we don't so New Yorkers don't have to travel to the central office to give us a tip or file a complaint, but actually can see staff at those centers. And so it's been extremely important for us to be at the forefront in the community to meet people where they are.
Thank you. And given that amazing goal, do you believe that CCHR is adequately sized to fulfill those goals? Would you like to see any increases in the budget and headcount?
Thank you. I think